Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, I just want to say welcome. So my YouTube feed has just been flooded with everyone's proposal stories, proposal videos, bridal showers, wedding vlogs, just everything bridal, everything wedding. And it kind of got me thinking back to, our wedding. I know it wasn't like a super big fancy wedding, but just got me thinking about like our wedding day, leading up to the wedding, all of the wedding vlogs, like the videos that I made showing you guys like how I was making my bouquet and what I bought and everything like that, and how excited I was. And it is such an exciting thing to get engaged, to wedding plan. It's all very exciting. It can be very stressful, but it's a very exciting time, especially for us girls. Like we get so into it, and it's just such a special time. And I will always cherish, the memories I have of our engagement, of planning for the wedding, of how our families helped to get, everything set up and put together for it. And yeah, it was just such a special time. But today's video is actually going to be me talking about a little bit more in depth how we met and just our relationship, and then the proposal, and kind of what our future plans are in regards to a wedding, because a lot of you know from watching my past videos, and just if you follow me on social media in general, we originally were planning for a big wedding, and I actually have a very, very big ball gown that I bought from David's back in 2017, which you're probably thinking like, didn't you guys get engaged in May? And I'm gonna go into detail. I'm gonna explain that all, but I'm just gonna go all the way back to the very beginning and tell you guys kind of how it all started. So we actually met in 2013. We didn't start dating until 2016, but we met in 2013. I was working at Wendy's at the time, and I had actually transferred from one location to another location that was closer to the house I was living in at the time. And he started working there in, I think, September or November, October, I don't know, somewhere in the fall of 2013, like towards the end of the year. And I don't want to say I was a bad worker, but I just always got really behind, especially with like closing duties. I would always have like a sink full of dishes at the end of the night, and I was running drive-through, so like I was just always like busy with stuff. And my manager would see that, and he would always call him in to come help me. He'd be like, hey, can you come in and help drive through? Her dishes are backed up. Like I kind of felt like I was a nuisance to him. And so I would always feel really bad when he would come in, but he never had to come in. My boss would just ask him if he wanted to come in, and he would literally he just lived right down the street. He would like run there. The second he got that call, he would be like, yeah, whatever he was doing, he would just drop it and he would come and he would help me. And it was really sweet. And after a while, my boss didn't ask him anymore. He just started coming in because he wanted to. I ended up finding out that it was because he had a crush on me. I didn't know at the time. He had actually just gotten out of a relationship a few months before he started working with me. A pretty serious relationship that lasted for a couple of years. So I just kind of thought like, oh, he probably just thinks I'm cute, whatever. I didn't think anything of it. And he was kind of like that goofy, like weird type. And for whatever reason, I'm drawn to weird, goofy guys because I'm like, he seems pretty cool. And we kind of hit it off, not like in that way, but like we hit it off as friends. I clicked with him. He was kind of weird and different and goofy like myself. And so we just became like best buds. He would always come in and help me with work, and we were really close in that friendship way. Like I would call him my best friend. He would call me his best friend. That's how close we were. And our friendship stayed pretty close up until a certain point. I got pregnant with my oldest son in 2014. It was April of 2014, so it was in the spring. And my son's dad at the time, he didn't really like him. He could see that he had feelings for me. I didn't really see it yet, and so it just made him super like nervous. He didn't like it. He didn't want us being friends. We continued to stay friends most of my pregnancy, just because my son's dad went off to basic training almost my whole pregnancy. And, you know, I would still hang out with my friends and I would still see him because we still worked together. And, you know, it was just a very platonic friendship. He was a good friend to me. And even though he did have feelings for me and I didn't see it, he never like tried anything. He was always like really respectful. And I guess that's why I never really knew. But I ended up leaving Wendy's halfway through my pregnancy, and I think that's kind of when we didn't necessarily stop being friends, but the communication died down a little bit. And I ended up getting a job at Super Target towards the end of my pregnancy, well, middle to end of my pregnancy, I guess you could say. And just the communication just died down. And then of course after my son was born, he saw him a few times when he was just really, really small, but it was just like our friendship had totally died down. I think it was more so on my end because, you know, out of respect for my child, like my child's dad, like I didn't ever, you know, I don't know, because I was dating my son's dad, and I would never want to do anything to come off as disrespectful, or, you know, I'm not that kind of person at all, never have been and never will be. And so I just stopped being friends with him just for the sake of our relationship, especially since we were bringing a child into the world, you know, our first child. But we actually ended things around the time that I had my son. I feel like we kind of ended things before I had him, and then we kind of just like came together as parents when I had him. But then right after I had him, it was like we were right back to where we had been with just, you know, where we were just parents and nothing else. Like we were just strictly co-parenting. And obviously I still had love for him, he still had love for me, but things just went really sour for us towards the end. When I was pregnant, it was just like he came back from basic training and things were very different with him. Like he acted like a whole different person. And I had pointed that out to him and he didn't see it at the time. And I think that was the biggest issue, is that he didn't see who he had become, you know. But that's what happens. People change, people fall out of love, those things happen. And it's really funny when I think about it, because about 2 or 3 months after I had my son, you know, I just had a baby. I had just went through like a super big breakup with my son's dad and just lots of drama between like our families. It was just a mess. And my old best friend kind of reached out to me again and he asked me out on a date. At the time, I had a little bit of communication with my son's dad, not a lot, and it was like very platonic because I had heard from people he was like dating and seeing other people and like hanging out with, you know, different girls and stuff like that. So it was very platonic, you know, I wasn't trying to be with him or anything. And I kind of thought about my best friend. I'm like, well, you know, I told him straight up, I was like, I just had a baby, I'm in a really tough spot emotionally, like I just don't know if that's such a good idea. And at that point I realized, oh, he does like have feelings for me, and I didn't want to lead him on, obviously. And I told him this and he was like, well, I just want to, you know, have a little nice date with you and just show you something different than what you've been experiencing. And so I said, okay. We actually, I don't even remember exactly. Actually, no, I do remember exactly. It was on Valentine's Day or the day before, maybe. He invited me over to his house. It was actually his grandma's house. He was staying with his grandma at the time. And he had like chocolate and like flowers and this big stuffed dog. and he was going to like make dinner for us, and we were just gonna watch a movie and just hang out. We actually started watching a movie, and this is where I completely hate myself, and I will never forgive myself for this because things could have been so different. But I got a text from my son's dad, and when I read it, I kind of felt guilty for being, you know, like on a date essentially with my best friend, even though I had no feelings for him and I had told him that. And so I left. I made up an excuse. I was like, hey, I really have to go back home and do something. I forgot what I said. So he ended up, actually, no, he ended up walking me back home because neither one of us had cars at the time. I just lived like right over the railroad tracks from where he was staying. So he walked me back home, and it was pretty cold and it was starting to snow. So I got home and I ended up like calling my son's dad, and like we talked, and he was like trying to be sweet, and I look back at it and I'm like that was so dumb of me, you know? Like I could have been in such a different spot, but I realized that everything happens for a reason, and everything in the end turned out in a good way. But I don't know. And I ended up telling my now husband about it. After, like, once we started dating, I ended up telling him that I was so sorry for leaving on our very first date in 2014. And I told him why. I'm like, you know, my son's dad was like texting me all these sweet things, and I felt guilty for being on a date with you, so I left. And he understood. He was a little hurt, obviously, because he really, really liked me. But I just feel like if we had went on that, like if I had actually stayed on that first date and like hung out with him and like truly got to know him in a romantic way, we probably would have started dating a lot sooner. Because, you know, in the end, I realized what a great guy, you know, he really is. And that's when the feelings started being mutual. I went all of 2015. No, I'm getting my story mixed up. We went on our first date in 2015, not 2014. I was pregnant in 2014. Had my son January of 2015, January 4th, actually. And yeah, it was around Valentine's Day when he had asked me out on our date, and that was the very first date we went on, was in 2015. And of course, that date didn't go very well. I went all of 2015 kind of just in this weird emotional state where like I still had feelings for my son's dad, but I wasn't with him. And he was kind of saying the same thing, but at the same time he was like dating other people and just doing whatever. And I kind of just held a torch for him, always thinking we'd get back together. Like that whole year, I went all of 2015 thinking we'd get back together. And I passed up on a lot of like nice guys that wanted to go on dates with me and hang out and just like, you know, be friends. I would always say no, because I thought there was a chance that my son's dad and I would get back together. And we just never really did. I want to say that we considered ourselves dating for a very short period of time in 2015, like towards the end of 2015. But to be completely honest, nobody knew about it. Like my family didn't really know that we were like considering ourselves dating. His family didn't know, his friends didn't know. And it was just a big mess, you know? So I can't even say that we got back together because that really wasn't a relationship. That was just a mess. And then in 2016, that's kind of just like, I don't want to say I let loose, but I definitely realized, you know, my self-worth. And I realized that I didn't need to keep holding on to something that was probably never going to happen and probably was not good for me, you know. We had just had so much negative things in our past, and I just didn't think we could come back from that, especially our families. As co-parents now, our families, you know, get along fine, but for us to be in a relationship, that just, we knew that was never gonna work, or at least I knew it was never gonna work. I don't know if he did or if he realized it after the fact. I don't know. But in 2016, I just started like seeing my friends more. I just started putting myself out there more. I went on a couple dates with some really nice guys. I just had fun, you know. I was like, I'm young and I need to just start doing, you know, fun things. Like, why am I holding myself back for something that's probably never going to happen? And that's definitely where I grew, like mentally and like maturity wise. I realized what is meant to be will be, and that was not ever meant to be. It just was not it wasn't in the cards for me, you know. So that's kind of what led me to be with my now husband. We kind of got close again in 2016 in the middle of the year. I had been seeing a couple different guys, going on dates, like not all at the same time, like different times, but just like dating around, hanging out, just having friends, you know, being young. And at that point, I was starting to hang out with my best friend again, and he was out of his grandma's house. He was in his own apartment. He had gotten a new job. Like, he had, you know, he had matured too. He had grown up. We were both in very different places than we were before. And I went over to his apartment. He had his own car, and he was just a totally different person. And I think that's when I started seeing him in that kind of way. I was seeing like, oh wow, you know, he's doing really good for himself. And he just seems so much more mature. Like, he was still that goofy guy that I had considered my best friend. But now he was like a grown man too. I didn't see him as a little kid, which is how I had seen him before, even though he's older than me. I didn't see him as a kid anymore. I saw him as like an adult that had his stuff together. And I was kind of thinking to myself, you know, I should probably date someone who has his stuff together. And I'm not talking about someone that has like a super nice car or a bunch of money or a big house, because, you know, he didn't have any of that at the time. But he was in a like a good position. Like, he was in a position where it seemed like he'd be a good guy to be with, or at least go on a couple dates with and see if I liked him. And so one night after the bar, we were actually pretty drunk, I'm pretty sure. And I initiated. I kissed him. He kissed me back. And a couple days later, because we were just talking on the phone like every night after that, the big kiss. A couple nights later, it was a Friday at the end of September, and he was at his friend's house after work, and we were on the phone for like 3 hours while he was at his friend's house. And that's when he asked me to be his girlfriend. And I said yes. We made it Facebook official because, you know, social media just has to know everything we do, right? I don't think like that anymore, but at the time I did. And I made it Facebook official. He still had Facebook at the time, so like all of his family, they were commenting on our post saying how happy they were, and they're like, oh, you're so pretty, oh, you guys are so cute. We even had people that we used to go to high school with tell us like, man, we were waiting for this. And I'm like, really? Apparently there was several people that had been shipping us like all these years since we had known each other in 2013, and they were really excited that we finally got together 3 years later. So that was kind of cool. And we just had a really awesome relationship. We were definitely very, very into each other in the relationship. It felt good dating an older guy who just seemed more mature, and just like he could take care of me. And I loved that I could just go to his apartment and just spend the weekend with him. Like, that was just fun to me. I don't know. But a lot of people don't know this. I feel like I've talked about it in a couple, maybe a video. I don't know. If I have, sorry, you'll have to hear this again. But if I haven't, then this is news to you. We actually did get engaged before. And this is what I was talking about my wedding dress. We got engaged in, oh gosh, when was it? We got engaged in 2017. Like, I want to say it was unofficially, because he asked me to marry him and I said yes. There wasn't like a ring or anything, but we had told our families We didn't like post it all over social media, but we told our families. And I started shopping for a dress, and I found this dress at David's that I just absolutely fell in love with. I didn't fall in love with the $1,000 price tag, but I fell in love with the dress. And so I did the financing with it, and I paid it off in a couple months, and then I had a wedding dress. In that time, like in between that time though, we actually had called off the engagement just because I'm like, we just started dating a couple months ago, you know, maybe we should wait. So we decided to, well, I decided to wait. He didn't really want to, but I decided to wait. And I paid off the dress in the meantime, and I kept the dress because I still wanted to marry him, just I wasn't ready for that yet. And I had already committed to a dress and like started paying on it, so I wanted to finish paying on the dress and just save it. So the dress was paid off, stored it at my grandma's house, and it's still at my grandma's house to this day, 2.5 years later. But it was, I think, August of 2017, so almost the end of the year. And that's when he actually officially proposed to me, and that's when we made it like Facebook official. I posted pictures. He bought me this really pretty like cushion cut rose gold ring, and it had a matching wedding band. Like, it was really, really pretty. And then it just, I don't know what happened with us. I feel like maybe it was more so me. Actually, it definitely was me. I think I was just so scared to be married because we hear about all these like scary things and how marriage is a joke and how the divorce rate is so high and how all husbands cheat, all wives cheat. And I am a firm believer in you don't cheat on your spouse, you don't cheat on your partner, you don't do that. You communicate to prevent those kinds of things from happening, you know? And so I would think I was just scared of like being permanently tied to somebody because I don't believe in divorce. I just don't. And I think I was just terrified, and we just kind of had like a big discussion about it, and we ended up calling off the engagement again. This time though, we had already told everyone, so it was a little bit messier. The first time around, no one really knew, so like it wasn't a big deal. But this time around, people knew. So it was kind of like, oh, why'd you guys call off the engagement? Like I was starting to get those kind of questions. And we stayed together. Like, we didn't break up. But it was just messy. He held on to the ring for a couple months. You know, he was going to ask me again when he thought I was ready. He was kind of waiting to see, like, feel it out, see how I was feeling about everything, like, months down the road. And I still wasn't ready. Going into 2018, going into 2018, I still like wasn't ready. Like the end of 2017, going into 2018, I still just wasn't really ready. And so he actually ended up taking the ring back. I didn't find out until it was around the end of the year when I found out that he had taken the ring back. And I was pretty surprised. I'm like, why'd you take the ring back? He's like, well, I didn't think that you were ever going to be ready. And he's like, I decided to take it back. He was like, I didn't want to ask you to marry me again with the same ring because it kind of lost some of the meaning to it, which I totally understand that. But yeah. And then we found out we were pregnant with the twins, and that kind of led us into, a relationship getting stronger because of our kids. We actually are much happier now because like our children have helped our relationship, which is usually the opposite for some people. Our children have helped our relationship. We got into our house. We're like this little family now. And earlier this year, on Mother's Day, he proposed again with a ring that is just so beautiful. I don't even think about the first one that he got me anymore because this one is just so beautiful. I love it so much. It's so me, so unique, and he picked it out all on his own, which I thought was just so special. And yeah, that's a super long story, but that is our story, and I just wanted to make this. So, which brings me to just like my last thing that I wanted to say, and that's what I said at the beginning of the video actually. As far as like our future plans go, I still have my wedding dress, and we definitely want to have not like a super big wedding, but we do want to have the wedding that we were originally planning for. Of course, we can't really call it like a wedding now. We're just going to call it like a vow renewal with a reception. So we're gonna have the reception that we didn't have before and invite like our extended family and friends so they can be a part of it. And we're gonna hire a photographer because we want to get, you know, some pictures for memories, pictures that we weren't able to get before. The pictures that we took before were just like pictures on my phone, not like super good quality. So we just want to have some nice pictures for some good memories to look back on. And I want to be able to wear my dress and just have that fairy tale that every girl wants. We don't plan on spending a bunch of money. We just want to have a special day though. So that's kind of what our future plan is, either for a year from now or 2 years from now. Definitely within 2 years, we're going to make the vow renewal and reception happen. He said he definitely still wants to have a wedding with everybody, so that's kind of our plan going forward. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I loved telling our story and how we came to be. I hope you guys loved it too. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the little notification button down below to get all of my future video updates, and I'll see you guys next time.